Hey everyone, we are back. I'm Ryan Maybee. We're here with another episode of Barely Enough, and we are down here in the Hey Hey Club in the basement of the J. Rieger and Company Distillery. And today I have a very special guest, one of our own employees, the wonderful rock star bartender Kate Shofler, who bartends right down here behind this very bar that we're sitting at.
Sure do. It's weird to be on the other side, I'll tell you
I was
that.
just going to ask, it's got to feel good to be sitting on this side of the bar.
Nice to not be looking out on the room,
Absolutely.
rather looking at what everyone else sees.
Cool. Well, what we wanted to talk about today is kind of a lot of things. I mean, kind of first and foremost, just kind of let people get to know who you are and talk a little bit about your experience bartending, those kinds of things. But also, we have a really big thing happening next week where we're going down to Tales of the Cocktail, and you're going to be going as well. We're going to New Orleans for Tales of the Cocktail. This will be my 14th time doing this. Which one is this for you?
This will be my first.
Awesome.
First time in New Orleans, first time at Tales of the Cocktail. Whole lot of firsts.
That's the part that really gets me. It's not just first time at Tales of the Cocktail, but first time in New Orleans, which is crazy. I mean, New Orleans is just such a wildly amazing city. Although you're going to be there for how long?
I'll be there for 9 days.
9 days.
Yeah.
I've never stayed in New Orleans for 9 days.
Yeah.
I feel like 9 days in New Orleans is enough time to just completely not come back, like just get lost and become part of the New Orleans streetscape.
I've been making that joke, and Josie, our manager down here, does not appreciate it. I keep saying to me, like, I'm not sure if I'm coming back. I might end up staying down there. Who knows what I'll find? And I think I'm the only one finding that funny right now.
It actually is really funny. And you know, in addition to all the times I've been down there in the middle of July for Tales, which is a horrible time to be there because it's so hot and steamy and muggy. I've been down several other times. One time of note was with Andy Rieger for his bachelor party. We had his bachelor party in New Orleans, and one of his buddies, it was like Andy with all of his buddies from college, and then me and Dave Pickerel. So, like, Dave and I were, like, kind of the two outcasts of the group, and it was, like, Andy and all of his college pals. And one of them was just wild. He was rowdy. And the last night there, we lost track of him. He disappeared. We didn't see him. And we're, like, getting ready to leave to go to the airport the next day to come home, and he still hadn't come back. And he shows up the last second, like, had lost his shoes. He lost his ID and his wallet, and he had, like, a half-full bottle of cognac. And, like, well, sorry, dude, we're going to the airport. That was the last time I ever saw him. Never saw him again. So
he's probably still down there.
That's what I think. I kind of feel like he just became a part of the streetscape and like part of the culture in New Orleans. But we can't let that happen to you.
No, I will come back.
Okay, cool. So we'll talk a little bit more about Tales and like what our involvement is, with the brand with J. Rieger and Company, and also specifically what you're doing. But maybe first, just talk a little bit about like who you are and your background as a bartender and how you ended up here at the Hey Hey Club.
Well, I'm Kate Shofler. I was born and raised in Kansas City. I've lived here my whole life. My background in bartending is actually pretty short. This is kind of my first official bartending job, and I'm still here. I had a very short stint at the Alamo Draft House at like the very beginning of COVID. I was 3 weeks into my training when they shut down. So I had learned a couple things, was mostly pouring beers at this point. Ended up in a bakery for the duration of COVID. Luckily had a few coworkers that had ended up here, invited me to join. They're like, hey, we're starting back up, opening the distillery back up, and we're looking for service industry folks. So they kind of riled me in. I started upstairs on our event team, and our director of food and beverage, actually Derek Branham, was the one that invited me to come down for the Hey Hey Club when they were looking for more people. And I've been here down here specifically for 2.5 years now.
Wow. I guess I didn't realize that this was your first like real bartending gig, but that's kind of amazing because I mean, not a lot of people get to kind of start their journey as a bartender in a place of the caliber of what we do down here. But that's really awesome that you get to start off like learning at this level, which is really cool.
It almost feels like when singers are like classically trained, that's kind of how this felt. Like I didn't start in a dive bar, didn't just start like pouring shots and beers and making green tea shots all day. I literally started by having the classics hammered into my brain, which was really, really cool.
Yeah, like the real classics, the true classics.
Yeah.
When I started bartending in 1999, it was like right on the cusp of like the kind of martini craze of the 1990s.
The apple teenies and everything.
I I probably served 200 to 300 appletinis and cosmopolitans a night. Like that's what I cut my teeth on, right before the kind of emergence of this whole new, modern cocktail movement. Yeah.
Where it's almost more like culinary now.
Oh, 100%.
So I'd say that's definitely, I feel like, where I've fallen into my style. Because like I said, during COVID, I worked at a bakery for a little over a year and just learned like recipes, dialing all that stuff in. Because with baked goods, it's actually way more similar to cocktails than you think. You throw one thing off by quarter ounce and you're going to mess up the whole batch.
Yeah. I say that all the time too. Like bartenders have so much in common with pastry chefs, and it's always been that because of the meticulous attention to measuring. You can take a more kind of saute cook approach, to bartending, and you can make it work. But when you're really talking about the impeccable balance of a cocktail, and really when you're working with volatile ingredients that are really, pronounced in flavor and trying to achieve that balance, you've got to measure. Really, really closely, and especially when you're doing, some more molecular kinds of things, which actually kind of brings us to this. So this cocktail that you made for us right before we went on here, I think kind of falls into that category. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this is, at its core, a milk punch. I've been working on it for, honestly, about a year. I've been really wanting to get into milk punch and kind of that style of clarified cocktails. This one specifically is made with our Rieger rye that I infused with a South African tea called honeybush, as well as dried apricots. So get some really beautiful floral notes, additions of that honeysuckle kind of flavor. And it also has a Pinot Noir brandy in there, some Cappelletti to kind of balance out the sweetness of the vanilla syrup that I put in there, and some orange blossom water as well. And then all clarified with lemon and milk.
Wow, that is absolutely delicious. And truth be told, I haven't had this one yet, and this is currently on the menu.
Currently on the menu, called the Seldom Seen.
Seldom Seen. Where did that name come from?
It's actually a character, one of the main characters from the movie Kansas City, which, if you didn't know, is where our Hey Hey Club sign comes from. Kind of very deep rooted in the history here, and I thought it was a little bit clever because it is a clear milk punch, so you seldom see it. Mm-hmm. At least that's the point. The hope is that it comes out completely clear. So
you don't see the ice cube either when it's first sitting in front of you. You don't even realize that there's an ice cube in it because it's so beautifully, perfectly cut and perfectly clear. I love the name, obviously. The Seldom Seen is such a great character in that film. And I think everything that we do here embraces history on so many different levels. And obviously the Hey Hey Club with, just the concept of the name. The Hey Hey Club is a celebration of Kansas City's history and a reference to that movie. And we actually have the movie sign. The movie prop sign is our signage outside the front door. So tying into that on the cocktail menu is just really, really cool. I was very happy to see that on there. It's awesome. It's a great name, too. It's a really fun name. Talk a little bit about, so we just introduced this new menu at the Hey Hey Club, which you obviously had a really big hand in. Do you want to talk a little bit about that process and what kind of, what inspiration you take when everyone has a different kind of creative process when making drinks. My background gives me a different kind of path to take when creating drinks as some others. And I love learning from other bartenders and people that do this, what kind of inspires your methodology in creating new cocktails. But talk a little bit about that process and how you get to the finished product with your cocktails and how you make the decision about what you want to make and what you want on the menu.
Yeah, honestly, I take a lot of inspiration from food personally, or just I'll fall in love with a spirit that I want to use. Like the petite brandy that I put in here, I was just finding a place to put it because I loved it so much, loved the expression. But one specifically that comes to mind is the flashbang on the menu, which is very much culinary inspired. There's this cold coconut noodle dish that is in a lot of Thai cuisine, and it's just cold noodles, coconut cream, as the sauce, some peanuts, and toasted sesame. And I fell in love with the way that the toasted sesame and the coconut and that creaminess paired together, and how they had on very different spectrums of nuttiness, but both kind of qualify. So mix that, ended up with some lemongrass in there, some lime leaf, just flavors that go together. I reference the Flavor Bible a lot. I also have my Oxford Companion to Cocktails to kind of look for some sort of classic that those flavors can fit into.
By Dave Wondrich.
Yeah, so I kind of start with an exciting flavor or just a inspiration that I'm excited about and see how I can basically turn that into drink form. But a lot of the times for me it is food.
How does that work with the rest of the team down here when you guys are collaborating, to put together a menu that has a theme? There's the movie theme, there's the Kansas City connection, the Hey Hey Club, all that stuff that kind of ties together, and you're working with another group of other bartenders that are doing their own thing. What is that collaborative process like, and how do you guys work together to come up with the final product?
I say it's actually a lot more collaborative than I had imagined when we did like our first menu flip. It really is. You're looking to other people not only to try things, but to help you move those ideas forward. Because I was stuck on this idea of lemongrass and toasted sesame, and I had Brett come up to me and was like, hey, what if you put a little bit of spice in there, because that would really bridge those flavors together. So I think really it's like communicating and talking to each other to kind of collab together to not only pick your own brain, but to pick the other bartenders' brains as well, because they're going to have a million things reeling that you would have never thought of. I would have never thought to make that one spicy.
Right.
When I was putting creamy and cold and toasty flavors together, especially in my mind when it's culinarily a cold dish, like heat, even in the sense of spice, never came to my mind.
Yeah.
I think it really is just like talking through your own process with other people who are going through the same process is really helpful to me personally.
Do you have a cocktail that you've come up with that you're most proud of, like your favorite that you've done so far?
Oh, I do. So
Yeah?
the femme fatale on this menu.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically, I never thought this would work, but this is like one of the few drinks that I've had the opportunity where I kind of made it for myself. But it's all my favorite things carbonated together. Just kind of hoping for the best on that one, and worked out pretty well.
Love it. So this is really, really cool. I mean, you've had about 2.5 years now, working down here in the Hey Hey Club, and I mean, really, that's not a lot of time. I remember, when I was 23, 24, and I've been bartending for about the same amount of time, 2.5 years. I mean, I still had so far to go in my career. But you've had this 2.5 years of working behind this bar under your belt, learning about these types of cocktails and creative processes and all that. And now, this year, you've been accepted as a cap at Tales of the Cocktail. Talk a little bit about that process, like the application process, what inspired you to want to do it, and what your excitement level is at this point.
First of all, super excited. Getting to the point where I'm teetering on anxious, just kind of nervous to get down there. But the application process itself was pretty extensive. I mean, they want to know who you are. They want to know why you want to do this, because it is such a collaborative process once you get down there. Like, you are making the cocktails for the seminars, the things that 500 people theoretically are going to be tasting, and you are doing that for whoever the speaker is. So you're not only representing yourself when you're doing that, you're representing them. You want to put good on their name. It's very nerve-wracking, but so basically I believe it was like 3 or 4 essay questions that you go through. I know one of them I wrote extensively about Legos and how they help you fine-tune your dexterity and attention to detail. I'm kind of convinced that's what got me through, because I've heard
great.
a couple of the higher-ups also talking about their Lego obsession. Yeah. So, yeah. And then, the sending in those essay questions, talking to them, and then waiting 2 months for an email to see whether or not you've made it.
How many, you may not know this, I'm not sure, but do you know, like how many people, and this is a global thing, like people apply to come and do this program, young bartenders to apply for this from around the entire world. It's a global thing. Tales of the Cocktail is the largest cocktail conference on the planet, and there's a lot of competition to like get the ability to get this honor to be a cap, which stands for Cocktail Apprentice Program, by the way. Do you know how many people apply for it and how many they select?
Ooh, I'm not sure applicant-wise. I think I read something on the website. I know in years past it's somewhere between like 500-600, if I'm not mistaken. And then I believe numbers-wise, I think there's 40 red coats, and then there's also gray coats, white coats, and black coats, who are kind of higher-ups who have gone through the program once, if not 10 times.
Yeah.
Who are kind of help now running it, because that's kind of the idea. You can do it a few times, move up not only in the program but in the organization itself, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really a cool thing to see. Now, I've never been a cap before, but I know enough people who have, and I've kind of been behind the scenes at Tails enough to see how it all goes, and it's really fascinating to see it because you're talking about 5 or 6 days just jam packed with multiple seminars happening all at the same time, and I'm talking dozens of seminars, tasting rooms, events happening across multiple buildings simultaneously. That this group, the CAP program, they're facilitating all of that, pouring the tasting samples and organizing everything and batching out cocktails for hundreds and hundreds of people at a time. I mean, across the course of the whole week, they end up. I read up on this one time, and I don't remember all the details, but I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands of cocktails are served during this time, and to pull that off at that scale is really quite a feat, and why this program has become so necessary and successful. I can only imagine it for you. It's going to be such a really, really cool learning experience because it's also going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of work, but also I'm so excited because like in its whole, it's kind of just a giant mentorship program. If like at least that's how I've been thinking about it, where every single other Redcoat, everybody involved in the program is learning from each other. I mean, we're from all over the world, like we said, so there are people that I'll meet that have different access to liquors, wine, just culture, food that like I haven't yet to experience, and just to get to collab with them, see their process, talk about their bars is going to be like really exciting. I can't even imagine just everything I'm going to get from it.
The mentorship aspect of this is something that I personally probably appreciate more than anything else. I know I keep making myself sound old when I talk about when I was like starting out at that age as a bartender, but none of that stuff existed back then, and I was so hungry for knowledge. Those types of opportunities weren't there. There were really no brand ambassadors back then, and there were no Tales of the Cocktail CAP programs and things like that when I first started. So having access to that information and that mentorship group, and you mentioned earlier before we started that you already have you're in a Slack group with all of the other caps, and so you're already building those relationships with people that you're going to now spend 9 or 10 days with in New Orleans pulling this thing off. I mean, it's just such a cool thing. It's going to be great.
Oh, it's really exciting. It's like where they kind of put you in little squads, so you work together. So like my gray coat, Aaron Hatchell, so excited to work with you, is from Canada. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also working with Erica, who is my partnered red coat. She's from Singapore. And these are people that I would have never, ever connected with had it not been for this program. And already just in my small group, not even meeting everybody else, already have these worldwide connections, which I'm really, really excited for.
It's absolutely amazing. So kind of expanding on that a little bit with what we're doing at Tales of the Cocktail, like as a company and as a brand. So we have another one of our employees, one of our Rieger employees, that's going to be on a seminar panel. That's Andy Ryan. She's going to be on one of the seminar panels for culture and kind of the things that happen within businesses and in bars and restaurants to kind of make sure that everyone is staying positive and feeling good about what they're doing, and just trying to lift everyone up and better themselves. So we're very excited to have her as a contributor to that discussion and one of the leading professionals in that area. So I think you'll probably have some opportunities to like see some of the seminars and witness some of those things that happen. So we've got that. We have some involvement there. We have a couple of happy hours that we do. Every year we have a tradition where we do a late night happy hour at Bar Tonique. So that'll be happening on Tuesday night from 9 p.m. to midnight. The next day on Wednesday afternoon, we're doing a happy hour event with a restaurant group out of Florida. We're doing it at the Saint Hotel, which is right next to the Ritz. Yeah. So right next to what you're doing. I'm looking at questions here. Sorry. We have a question for the audience. What are you most excited about with regards to New Orleans?
I'd say it's hard not to say the cocktails, considering I'm going to basically one of the biggest cocktail conferences in the world. But I think the connections, honestly, just already there's a list of people that I know are going to be there that I'm going to be keeping my eye out for, but also just like the fellow caps and everyone there, because everyone there is there to be immersed in the service industry, basically. So I'm excited to see how other people handle their day-to-day, especially when we're put in a really high-pressure situation like preparing cocktails for the seminars.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the people.
Yeah.
Official answer, but drinks are a close second.
That's what gets me going back every year. And for a long time, every year when Tales was upcoming, I would tell myself I'm not going to go unless I have something to do, because it can get in trouble. I mean, easy to get in trouble, but as long as I've got something to kind of focus on, and I would end up down there. So every
There
year,
with
so
a mission.
I end up there with a goal in mind, and I've built so many relationships over the years. I mean, even Rieger in general, like the relationship with Pick. The first time I ever met Tom Nickel was down there. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the ways that Tales of the Cocktail have impacted what I've done in my life and what J. Rieger is today. The whole week wraps up. The big finale is with the Spirited Awards on Thursday night. Used to be on Friday or Saturday night, but they kind of bumped it back up so more people could attend. And that is exciting this year for an extra special reason. So 9 years ago in 2015, we were up for, J. Rieger was up for Best New Spirit or Cocktail Ingredient. We were in the top 4 with our J. Rieger Kansas City whiskey.
Kansas City.
Like when we launched the Kansas City whiskey, we made top 4. And for those of you who don't know, the Spirited Awards with Tales is like kind of like the Oscars of the cocktail industry. Or it's like the James Beard Awards, but for spirits and cocktails, and as opposed to food and restaurants. It's a big deal and gets a lot of attention, and people get really excited about it and kind of dress up and have a lot of fun and celebrate, what people are doing around the world in our industry. And so 9 years ago, Kansas City Whiskey was a top 4 finalist for Best New American or Best New Spirit global category. The Rieger, my restaurant at the time, was also a finalist for Best American Restaurant Bar. And now this year, 9 years later, our Monogram 2023 Kansas City Whiskey is up for that same award. So this will actually be the first time that I've gone back to the Spirited Awards since then, 9 years ago. And I asked you the other day if you were going to be able to get away from working to go there, and what'd you say?
We will be there with a stage presence. All of us Caps will be there.
Nice.
Yeah. We work hard. We're going to play even harder. So
absolutely.
We'll be there having a lot of fun.
Yeah, so that's exciting. We've got about eight people within our company that are all going to be down there for all the various events that we're doing, and then all kind of culminating with the Spirited Awards on Thursday night. So, Monogram Whiskey is up for Best New Spirit global category. The other 3 finalists are a 20th anniversary Añejo tequila, I believe, a Jamaican rum from Worthy Park, and there's a non-alcoholic ingredient, I believe, like a yuzu non-alcoholic ingredient. So really diverse mix of spirits and ingredients in that category, but fingers crossed. So
I'll be ready to run up on stage if it happens. Like, sorry guys, gotta go. I know them.
Absolutely. Speaking of new spirits, I have a little bit of a surprise for you. I have to keep this off camera. I can't let people see it.
Ooh, no label.
Can't see it. No. But we have a project we've been working on here further away.
Yeah, further out.
We have a project we've been working on here for a long time, and we're going to be we're actually going to have the real deal bottle down there next week that we're taking around and sharing with people. It's one of my favorite things to do is just carry around some products that people can't get elsewhere, or maybe it's forthcoming and new, and just taste them on it and get them excited about it. So this is our new 90 proof bourbon that we are going to be releasing here in the next couple of weeks. It comes off of our new distillery system that we built in 2019, so it's roughly 4.5 or so years old. 90 proof is going to be much more of a cocktail-friendly price point as opposed to our bottled and bond, which is a little bit more of an elevated 6-year-old higher price point bourbon, but very excited because we're going to get to share this with people down there, show it off a little bit, and
do I get a bottle to take?
You are going to get a bottle to take.
You heard that, Caps.
I'm absolutely going to give you a bottle to take down there and share with all the people that you meet. But probably the first time you've tasted it?
Yeah, I have not tried it yet.
All right, well, cheers. Tell me what you think about it.
Smooth. Not as sweet as I expected. I did expect a little bit more like vanilla-ness.
Part of that I think it is, yeah, and we're really, really excited about the too long for this episode. We can't go too in depth on the production methods, but what we're doing with a 2-part distillation system with our column and our pot still is very unique, if not 100% proprietary. Set up and designed by Dave Pickerel and Nathan Perry, and now we're just 4.5, 5 years later starting to see the fruits of all that effort kind of come to fruition, which is really exciting. And now we'll have a permanent new addition to the lineup. And the reason I couldn't show it to you is because it'll have a little different look to it as well. So yeah,
Secrets.
further push it further off.
And get it out of the room.
Right. Well, I think that's all I got. I don't know. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. Just thank you so much for having me
Yeah.
on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great talking to you as always.
Absolutely. I'm getting to wrap it up. Yeah.
Yeah, we get the red light
Getting-
flashing at us.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot, Kate. I appreciate it. Very excited for you to go down to New Orleans and have a good time.
Me too. I'll see you there.
Well, probably
we'll
not.
see. I'll probably be
not,
working, but-
probably not much. But you'll be busy. But I'm sure we'll run into each other. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate you for joining us for Barely Enough, and we will see you next time.
Yeah, cheers.